Hey everybody, good morning. It's Nate here again. It is June 2nd, the second day of the month. I hope everybody is having a beautiful start to the new month of June. If there's any special plans that you guys have for the month of June, please leave it in the comment section below. Before we get started, please, if you're a new subscriber, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, press that like button if you like the video, and turn on the post notification on so you're not missed of any new videos that I post. I do want to also thank everybody who watched my video, my reaction to Harry Mack's Drive-By Freestyles in NYC. Believe it or not, that was actually my first ever reaction video or first ever video ever created on YouTube. Yes, I was indeed nervous, but I had a really fun time making it. So definitely, if you haven't watched it, I appreciate the support. You can go ahead and click on it. I will probably leave a link to that video somewhere, either in the description down below or leave it on the screen. But before we get started, I was thinking about what other video or what's the next second video I want to make, whether it was another Harry Mack video or a travel video. But you know what? Part of this channel and this journey that I'd like all of you guys to come along with me on is I want to get an understanding of my roots. So the reason why my channel is called ABC Nate Reaction is because the ABC actually stands for American Born Chinese. As you can all know, I am Asian. I have Chinese heritage. Both of my parents were both born in Hong Kong. And all of my cousins that I have that were born and raised in Hong Kong would call all of my siblings, and I have other cousins from the United States, ABC, American Born Chinese. So they call us ABC, so hence the name of my channel. So this is kind of me finally, after 4 decades, using the media of YouTube to understand where I actually came from. So the video that I'll be reacting today is actually called The History of Hong Kong from Prehistoric Village to British Colony. All right, so let's go. Let's go ahead and watch this.
Lately, massive protests in Hong Kong have been drawing the attention of the world. But as many look on, they do so with very little context for the events that are unfolding. In this video, I hope to help educate audiences by providing an overview of the history of Hong Kong and its relationship with both China and the West. A quick thanks is owed to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let's start with some basics on geography. When we talk about Hong Kong, we're talking about an area in southern China along the Pearl River Delta. The region of Hong Kong is about 1/10 the size of Iceland, or half the size of Rhode Island.
That's interesting because I didn't realize that Hong Kong was that small. Anytime I ever were to, compare or basically explain how Hong Kong is to people, it's the best. I like to best describe it as New York City, as far as like the tall high-rise buildings, the congestion, the primary form of transportation, at least the cars wise, is taxis everywhere. People walk everywhere. They use the subway. They have buses. They have little trams. So most of the time in Hong Kong, if you have a car and you drive, you normally have money, just because obviously it's pretty expensive to live in Hong Kong.
The landmass consists primarily of a chunk of the mainland, separated from the rest of China.
Yep, I've been to Kowloon many times, and right over here with Lantau Island, that's actually where I believe that's what this is right here. I believe this is the airport. They have they're famous for the big, huge Buddha that I'm sure it might be in this video somewhere. But also one place that I want to go to, because I believe it or not, I'm a Disney adult. One of my ultimate goals is to move out to Orlando. But they have Disneyland Hong Kong. It's over there in Lantau Island. So that's one of my, I guess you can call it, bucket list items that I want to get to. Kowloon has the night market, which is basically just a long stretch of tents where people just sell all sorts of different stuff that you can find there. Very interesting, and it's very fun, especially at night.
By the Sham Chun River, and includes over 200 islands, the largest of which are Lantau and Hong Kong Island proper. Much of the terrain is mountainous or hilly, with many forested areas unsuitable for construction.
Yeah.
The coastlines are quite rugged as well,
Beautiful scenery,
but do feature many bays and inlets which provide ready access to the sea. Most people live near these low-lying areas. It is here that significant land reclamation projects have taken place to expand the habitable zones for one of the most densely populated areas of the world. Now, for a quick and dirty overview of Hong Kong's history. The region was inhabited as far back as the Stone Age and developed into a farming and fishing community that would be incorporated into the various Chinese dynasties from the Qins of the 2nd century BC.
Wait, Hong Kong's been discovered all the way since 6000 BC? Wait, hold on. Maybe I missed something. Let me go back a little bit.
Zones for one of the most densely populated areas of the world. Now, for a quick and dirty overview of Hong Kong's history. The region was inhabited as far back as the Stone Age and developed into a farming and fishing community that would be incorporated into the various Chinese dynasties from the Qins of the 2nd century BC to the Qings of the 1800s.
Wow, it does sound like that.
At this point, it passed into the hands of the colonizing
long.
British, who briefly lost control to the invading Japanese during the Second World War, before recovering the territory in 1945.
Wow, that's
156 years of British rule would end in 1997 when the colony of Hong Kong was transferred to the People's Republic of China as a part of broader
I remember when actually that announced. I don't remember. I've been to Hong Kong many times, but I know I know there were stories that my mom told me that basically, the first time I was there when I was like 1 year old, where I got to meet my grandmother before she passed away. Yeah, none of my younger brother, my younger sister, they didn't get a chance to meet him. But no, I do remember when we were there in 1996 for a family reunion, that it was announced that, China was taking back ownership, but I think they allowed Hong Kong to be its own thing for, I forgot how many years. If you guys do know that, you can help me jog my memory. If you guys could just post it in the comment section below, I'd greatly appreciate it. But I know it was a long time, and I know it, obviously, I think Hong Kong is still running under Hong Kong rule. Obviously, they're all British rule. They basically, everything runs like as if it was exactly as if it's a British colony. As you can see, you drive on the right hand side of the car, everything's reversed from the US. They say queue up instead of line up here. They got their own currency, Hong Kong dollar. But yeah, let's keep going.
20th century decolonization.
This is
trends.
interesting.
Hong Kong would be designated a special administrative region, which featured both governmental and economic systems separate from those of mainland China. Over the years, these lines have been increasingly blurred. Today, we're watching as the nature of this relationship.
Wow, that's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. But you know what, guys, just in case they don't flame me, but I wasn't really too much of a history person when in school, so I might be a little bit slow in kind of understanding this, but I'm doing my best. But yeah, I was more of like a math and the simple type of thing, so just probably why I never had a younger interest in this, just because anything that was in regards to reading and understanding stuff like this, just because I have ADHD, just didn't probably pique my interest. But now that I'm old enough, or I guess I'm getting older, and I finally can understand, have a reason to understand this stuff, it's time for me to do it.
Is being tested. Okay, with that out of the way, let's do a deeper
What is going
dive
on
the
here?
history of
Is
Hong
this a
Kong.
protest?
As we've stated, the early history of Hong Kong dates back almost 6,000 years to a time when Neolithic tribes found refuge along its shores. These early humans set up basic houses and provided for themselves by farming and fishing. They left behind rock carvings of religious significance, 8 of which have been discovered in the area today. Over the years, these various small family groups would consolidate into larger villages and eventually form relationships with their neighbors. Ancient Chinese scholars referred to these southern communities as the 100 Yue tribes. This distinct indigenous group stretched out along the southern coast of China. Their kingdoms greatly benefited from a temperate climate, fertile fields, bountiful fishing grounds, and lucrative maritime trade routes. For a time, they also enjoyed relative safety from the warring factions to the north. However, in the 3rd century BC, Qin Shi Huang would complete his conquest of 6 warring states and found the first imperial dynasty of China. This new Qin dynasty empire would turn greedily to the south. 5 successive campaigns were launched against the Yue tribes. While the area was sparsely populated, its wild jungle terrain made it possible for the outnumbered defenders to put up a fierce guerrilla resistance. However, by 214 BC, they would largely be defeated. What followed was a concerted effort by the Qin dynasty to Sinicize the area. The territories were broken up into new administrative zones for easier control, while massive numbers of colonists were brought in to settle the area, and the Chinese script was imposed on the locals. When Emperor Qin died, his empire barely outlasted him as insurrections rapidly spread across the land. In the south, the Yue regions once again regained their independence. In particular, a Qin general named Zhao Tuo would use this movement to found his own kingdom, sending troops to garrison the mountain passes and eliminating all rival Qin officials. He proclaimed himself king of Nanyue in
Wow, that is crazy. But you guys, I am being serious. Like, this is probably why, and I'm so glad YouTube has been created, because I'm telling you, my ADHD is already kicking in, and I know I gotta lock it in for the video, but I know, like, back then when I was growing up, obviously this was probably all in, like, textbooks, so I for sure definitely would not. I mean, obviously I guess I could have, like, planned trips, but it's Hong Kong's many thousand miles away, so getting on a plane wasn't probably cost effective to go. That's why, like, we didn't really have that many family reunions as often. But this is interesting.
204 BC with its capital in Panyu. He would find success in conquering his neighbors, and the kingdom even managed to take over part of northern Vietnam. Eventually, however, northern China was able to emerge from its infighting and reconsolidate under the Han dynasty. This new empire quickly sought to re-exert power on the south. As tensions escalated, Nanyue formally submitted itself as a subject state, but in reality maintained much of its autonomy. In 111 BC, this would end when Nanyue was invaded in force by several Han armies. From this point on, the southern lands would be caught up in the greater cycle of imperial dynasties that oversaw China's unification and division over the centuries. In these matters, there is relatively little to be said of Hong Kong specifically. It fell under the administration of the Guangdong province, but would have been of little note as its community.
Guys, I just want to let you guys know, if you guys see me very serious, it's because I am trying to focus on understanding this, just because stuff like this does not come easy to me. I have ADHD and short-term memory loss, so I have to watch this I probably will have to watch this again about multiple different times for me to actually fully get it. But if I don't seem very happy and excited, I am. Hopefully you guys understand. If you guys find this interesting, please, if you haven't already, hit that like button. If you are new, once again, I would definitely appreciate it if you subscribe and hit that little red button, the subscribe button. And, I'd like to hear your comments about this video, whether you like or dislike, or if you have any knowledge about this that maybe could help me better understand it. All right, let's keep going.
These were made quite small, with a population in the low thousands. The inhabitants of early Hong Kong, therefore, would not have played a large role in affairs beyond their local region, and remained fairly isolated, maintaining their traditional way of life for many centuries. Yet they were not completely unaffected by the larger tides of history we have just discussed. The people of Hong Kong increasingly fell under the sway of Chinese influence, making its way down from the north, which gradually displaced or assimilated with the local Yue culture. For now, this was a rather slow process, but as we shall see, the trend would accelerate during the later imperial years. Between the 2nd and 20th centuries, China would go through numerous dynasties. The years of peace led to a flourishing of economic opportunity which attracted a steady flow of Chinese immigrants to the south. The years of war turned this flow into a torrent. This was particularly the case during periods of imperial transition which were accompanied by years of widespread warfare and disunity. Such turbulent events often centered around the more prosperous areas of northern China, which would drive huge civilian caravans into the safer regions of the south. As an example, it's reported that the An Lushan rebellion during the Tang dynasty of the 8th century led to an almost doubling of the Guangzhou prefecture. An even more dramatic migration would take place during the 13th century with the Mongol invasions. These terrifyingly brutal affairs devastated the north. Huge numbers of refugees, and even the entire Song dynasty government was forced to relocate away from the threat. As the empire was slowly conquered, the boy Emperor Zhao Bing temporarily sought shelter atop a sacred mountain hill in Hong Kong. Upon hearing that the Mongols had defeated his fleet at the naval battle of Yamen, the emperor, along with much of his royal clan, committed suicide. This event and the collapse of the Song is preserved today in stone carvings located within Kowloon in Hong Kong.
Wow.
During the years of Mongol rule, much of the population was a mix of farmers, fishermen, pearl divers, and pirates. Over the following centuries, more people would arrive to populate the various regions of Hong Kong, which still remained quite wild. These would build up walled cities to protect themselves from bandits, wild animals, and rival clans. By the 15th century, Chinese maritime activity was kicked up a notch as foreign trade and contact with the outside world exploded under the Ming Dynasty. This was typified by the incredible voyages of Zhang He's treasure fleet. With increasing traffic throughout the South China Seas, yet more people were drawn to seaside communities such as Hong Kong.
Wow. So,
However,
so I still wonder what is so special about Hong Kong. I guess everybody was just migrating down there just because that's not really where the war was. Huh, that's interesting.
Things weren't always in a state of influx. For instance, in the late 1600s, the Qing dynasty was stamping out resistance to its rule and issued the Edicts of the Great Clearance, which mandated the evacuation of coastal regions. Tens of thousands of families were relocated as government forces were deployed to enforce the decree. Beacon Hill in Hong Kong was the location of one such garrison, which oversaw the transformation of the region into a barren wasteland. While the edict was eventually lifted and the people allowed to return home, the event led to an even greater mixing of the population. All of the immigration we have just described further diluted the original population of southern China.
Oh wow, yeah, I guess that is the case.
However, rather than outright replace it, new cultural groups such as the Cantonese emerged. As the centuries rolled on, there would be a great layering of immigrant groups, one on top of another. Today, there are many distinct groups recognized throughout the region of Hong Kong, such as the Punti, Hakka, Tanka, and Hokkien people, who can trace their origins back to one or another of these early communities. It wasn't just the other Chinese who were increasingly interested in southern China. In the 16th century, maritime trade links with the rest of the world were opening up, and European merchants were now making frequent stops along the coasts of Guangdong province. The Ming government of the time wished to maintain a watchful eye on these foreigners. As a result, they allowed the Portuguese to establish a singular, permanent settlement at Macau in 1557, where they could be relatively contained. The result was that Macau soon became the center of a
Interesting. But no, I have also been to Macau, and I remember back in 2006, Macau is the Las Vegas of the East Coast. That's where all the casinos, and it's basically all the tall buildings and all the resorts are there. It was interesting that it was really nice and beautiful. They also have really good, well known for their egg custards.
hemispheric exchange of commodities. This had many benefits for the economies of local neighbors like Hong Kong. By the 17th century, the British had overtaken the Portuguese as masters of the sea, and were granted their own trading post in Canton, which the Qing government decreed was to be the only legal Chinese.
Okay, so I was kind of wondering that because I just recently watched, and I might do my own reaction on it, but I just watched, and it was interesting how the meaning and the history behind the Star Spangled Banner, and it had to do with like how the British had invaded and all that stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you guys probably know that. And if you guys do, let me know. I'd like to hear it in the comment section below. But I was kind of after I watched that, and I started thinking about, okay, how did Hong Kong become British? I was wondering if that was how it came about. But let's listen to that again.
Many benefits for the economies of local neighbors like Hong Kong. By the 17th century, the British had overtaken the Portuguese as masters of the sea, and were granted their own trading post in Canton, which the Qing government decreed was to be the only legal Chinese port for overseas trade. Fortunes were to be made in southern China. This was a fact well understood by the many European merchants and envoys flooding the region, as well as the numerous pirates who followed in their wake. We just produced a whole video on one such famous pirate, Pirate Jingxi, who operated out of the Pearl River Delta, and who often set up shop around Hong Kong. To the foreigners, these pirates and the overly controlling Qing government were hurting their bottom line. For these reasons, they sought out ways to protect their commercial interests. As one would imagine, this interest quickly manifested itself through armed conflict. The greatest of these aggressive negotiations would be the Opium Wars. Fought between the British and the Qing empires, they would see the Chinese government severely weakened and forced to open up trade with the outside world. Hong Kong would be caught up in these affairs. In 1841, the British Navy made its way to the Pearl River Delta, and after winning several encounters, occupied Hong Kong as a base of operations. The British flag was raised on the 26th of January when Commodore Sir Gordon Bremer claimed the island as a colony. However,
Wow.
it wasn't until the 29th of August 1842 that the subdued Qing dynasty would officially cede the island of Hong Kong to the British under the Treaty of Nanking that ended the First Opium War. When hostilities again flared up with the outbreak of the Second Opium War, the British used the peace treaty of 1860 at the Convention of Peking to get even more land. The terms of the treaty specified that southern Kowloon and Stonecutters Island would be leased, rent-free, in perpetuity, a fancy way of saying it was conquered. Further concessions were obtained in 1868 at the Second Convention of Peking in order to safeguard Hong Kong Island. The treaty extended British control up to the Shamchun River, an area known today as the New Territories, and included an additional
That makes sense.
200 islands in the vicinity.
I've been to the New Territories. Nah, it makes a lot of whole sense. Okay.
Terms of the deal stipulated a 99-year lease, which would expire at midnight on June 30th, 1997. Surely enough time to kick things down the road far enough so they could get sorted out. For now, this is where we will end our episode, at a point in time where most videos on the history of Hong Kong begin. In the next part, we'll continue the story by covering the colonial period and the transformation to a special administrative region of China. See you then.
Alrighty, guys, there you go. There you have it. That was very, very, very interesting. Like I mentioned, the purpose of, me picking that video was, part of this journey that you guys are coming up along with me is to, help me discover things that I didn't know. I just turned 40 this year, and, like I mentioned, the reason behind the name of this channel, my parents being born in Hong Kong, and I have, like, Chinese origin. I just want to kind of better understand the history behind all of that, and this was a great start. So, like I mentioned before, if you guys truly did like this video, I would appreciate it if you smash that like button, the little thumbs up button. If you're new and you enjoy this content, I'd love it if you would subscribe. I would definitely appreciate that. And also, just help me out by turning on those post notifications. It would help you alert when I post new videos. But for now, I'm signing off. All right, peace.